Hello, folks. This is Eric Lavallée for IndieSponge. I'm once again co-hosting with my fave, Kevin Jagernauth. Kevin, how's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. We are in the midst of the final days of the summer. It went fairly quickly, and we're about to take the plunge into the Venice Film Festival in about 2 weeks' time from now. But there are some decent headlines coming out. The first one is from one of my favorite filmmakers in the American indie scene. Janicza Bravo is actually attached and is going to write and direct a series. The major thing for me is seeing the Annapurna name embedded here. So before we go into this project, I know that we were talking about Miss America. Had you seen the second to last episode? Did you see any signature style elements from Janicza? I believe she did episode 9 of Miss America.
Yeah, no, I watched the series earlier this year. I mean, I didn't see anything signature particularly from her, but that episode was kind of almost a standalone almost. It was a very interesting episode that was very strongly directed. It was I think one of the better ones of I mean, the whole series was good, but it was a very strong episode. I think it's just been interesting to watch her career. As we both know, Zola was a big hit at Sundance, and that's on the way from A24, who released a teaser not too long ago. And she's been working in TV a bit, as you mentioned, Mrs. America. She wrote an episode of Little America for Apple TV Plus. But I think with this project, it's another opportunity for her to break out even more. I think it's the next step in her career.
So this project, it's quite interesting, the project in itself. So it's a portrait of an author who essentially broke out big with his debut novel, but he was going under a pseudonym, and essentially, and this is a great quote that Janicza was asked about the project, and this is what she says. It's fairly fascinating. It's an untrustworthy protagonist, and the series examines white identity and how we as an audience participate in making room for this behavior. So let's dig deep into this. Based on a New Yorker article on an author who more or less has been padding his career, padding his life, and essentially being really deceitful on who he is.
Yeah, so this is based on the New Yorker article, A Suspense Novelist's Trail of Deceptions, which I think says it all in the title. We have the intriguing casting of Jake Gyllenhaal in the lead role. And just reading the synopsis and that kind of thing, it actually brought to mind, we've seen a few things over the past few years. It brought to mind J.T. Leroy, perhaps. Brought to mind maybe James Frey, these authors who sort of build an enigma around them or build a certain narrative that turns out to be not entirely truthful.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I think this is a potential story that plays a lot with fiction, a lot with the sort of narratives authors build in their stories and also about themselves. So it's very much, it's almost meta in a sense. It's a series about storytelling itself. So I think particularly for a filmmaker like this, there's a lot of really cool thematic things to dig into.
Yeah, I believe that once you plunge into what the series might look like, there'll be a lot of second guessing and third guessing on what's the truth, what's not the truth. And for those who haven't really explored this New Yorker article, I think, yeah, it'll be much talked about. So Bravo is going to co-write the pilot and really shepherd this project. And you mentioned Jake. Jake is going to suit up as this protagonist, and I more or less think of the character he plays in Nightcrawler, but also these like these characters with multiple layers. I think it really is in his wheelbarrow to tackle a role like this. So yeah, so some fun series news that's going to be packaged by Annapurna. So we don't know necessarily which what network it's going to be attached to, but it could go to any of the bigger ones, Amazon included.
Oh, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see where it lands, but I think it's also just worth pointing out that, over the past few years, Jake Gyllenhaal has, as a producer, really attached himself to rising filmmakers. He has Snowblind coming up with Gustav Mahler, who directed The Guilty. As a producer, he has 2 films coming. He has Good Joe Bell at TIFF, The Devil All the Time, the Antonio Campos film that's coming to Netflix. So that's pretty cool in itself that he's recognized the talent in Bravo and is supporting it.
Yeah, he's really attaching himself to true auteurs in the larger American indie world, I guess. Sean Baker this week, it was announced that, well, not announced, it actually, I think it slipped through a couple of interviews or whatnot, but he's going to be doing a docu project. And again, he's got this fascination for I want to say characters. I'm borrowing the word characters here for a true life person, but he's looking at the fringe minority in a way, and this personality, somebody that I'm not really familiar with her earlier work, but is an actress turned social media maven and sort of like used her celebrity status to move into a sphere that's fairly new territory. So there's no title yet, but it's essentially a docu-portrait on Bella Thorne and potentially the OnlyFans application. So yeah, let's talk about that direction, that curious direction that Sean Baker's taking.
Yeah, this is an interesting project. Bella Thorne is an actress who's been around for a while. She's always busy making different projects, but she's probably best known for Assassination Nation from a couple years ago. She has also the Babysitter franchise on Netflix, but she's definitely built up a strong following on social media, and now she's pivoting to OnlyFans, which is a subscriber-based service. It's popular with porn stars and that sort of thing. It's a lot of adult content, so it'll be, but and so it's an interesting announcement that Sean Baker will make a documentary about Bella Thorne's OnlyFans, I guess, interactions, but it's not entirely surprising, I don't think. Sean Baker, he discovered Bria Venate, if I'm saying that wrong. She was on Instagram, and that's how she was cast in the Florida Project.
Good point.
He's also, and this, I'm not trying to draw parallels because they're kind of different, but he's also really, if you follow him on Letterboxd and on Instagram and stuff, he's really into sort of exploitation cinema and those kinds of things. And while I'm not saying that Bella, like this OnlyFans thing, is akin to exploitation cinema, there is that element of sort of provocative media. And so I don't think it's entirely out of his wheelhouse that he's doing this. I think it's an interesting avenue for him to chase. I think it speaks to some of his interests in a lot of ways.
Yeah, Starlet with Hemingway and Tangerine, where I mean, he really went on the to find these bigger than life characters. I think he's interested in these microcosms that exist and are very much a part of a larger fabric. And in this case here, she made Assassination Nation, but I really first heard of her when she directed a short for the Pornhub platform, and the Sundance of Europe Oldenburg Film Festival was proud to program that. I believe it was 2 years back. So um, yeah, this Bella Thorne is really owning her own space, and I'd be curious to know if Sean had made an earlier connection with her, especially with the popularity of the Florida project, and how far into this project, at what juncture are we at right now? Are we, is he going to follow her for a couple of years and sort of like do a docu project and then concurrently work in the narrative? I'd be curious to see when this actually materializes and in what shape or form. It doesn't necessarily have to be a feature film. But they're seeing that this OnlyFans is a fairly new like side app or platform to like Instagram. Even this is in a nascent stage, so perhaps there'll be an exploration of what that interaction looks like, and you can only truly get a sense of how impactful this is if you do it for a longer time span. So yeah, curious to see what the final result will look like, sound like.
No, that's an excellent point. OnlyFans is sort of an emerging platform, and I think, we haven't seen sort of a quote unquote mainstream celebrity sort of embrace it in the way that Bella Thorne will be doing. She's expected to pull in, I think, like, millions of dollars just from subscriptions on the platform alone, and that. So you're right, this could be something that he could track over maybe a year or two and put it together that way. So very curious to see how this turns out.
Robert Eggers' third feature film. This week, by some clever social media postings, we learned the identity of a couple of new players on this ensemble project, which is actually going to start lensing soon, or has already started to lens. And the first thing I could say is, oh, there's a lot of players that were former Lars von Trier participants. So yeah, Robert Eggers The Northman. Bjork is attached in some capacity. So let's talk about this project. What does it say that Focus Features was able to create such a vast backdrop? It's another built set for the filmmaker. But also just the names attached to this project it's a true A-team of actors who work for auteurs and that you would expect to see at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah, so Robert Eggers, I mean, this is Focus Features and New Regency, so there's probably more money behind it than we think.
Yeah.
But I think it just speaks to the fact that following The Witch and The Lighthouse, Robert Eggers has positioned himself as a filmmaker who will give actors roles that the kind of stuff they're not going to be able to do really elsewhere. So it's to me, it speaks to, I mean, Willem Dafoe is back working with him on this project. We have Ethan Hawke, Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicole Kidman, Alexander Skarsgård, Claes Bang. So these are all actors who relish these kind of meaty roles. This is a Viking revenge story as far as we know. Obviously, plot details are under wraps. And the Bjork connection, which is the big piece of news to emerge. It'll be her first film since her contentious role in Dancer in the Dark and her friction with Lars von Trier. It's actually, if you do a bit of digging, it's maybe not entirely surprising.
Mm-hmm.
The script for the film was by an Icelandic poet named, I'm going to get it wrong, Sion Sigurdsson. And he's actually a very frequent collaborator with Bjork. He co-wrote a song. He wrote a song for the Sugar Cubes way back that was like a huge hit for them. He was a lyricist on Dancer in the Dark, so that connection is strong with himself and Bjork. So I have a feeling it was probably his prodding a little bit that got her into this film.
Well, I'm super excited about that. I also noticed some of the aerial shots of the set. That I'm jonesing because of obviously The Witch and what he did with so little. I definitely get a sense it's not going to be in black and white, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do use film. Like you mentioned, New Regency is shepherding this project, so they're the ones that did The Revenant, under extreme conditions, and they got the shoot on celluloid for that. So, I'm just really happy for this filmmaker and giving him just a larger palette and means to realize a project in this scope. It gets me super excited, I guess the inclusion of Bjork makes sense with that linkage, but just like a promising cast that you get a sense will really belong to this 10th century world that Eggers creates.
Yeah, he's building. You mentioned the aerial shots. He's building a whole set in Northern Ireland that looks kind of amazing. And as we've seen from his first two films, his work is super stylized. So it'll be very interesting to see what his visual approach is with this film, how he brings this era to life. Yeah, but it certainly looks like he's really going all in once again. So it's very exciting.
There's a project in the works by Ridley Scott that looks at the Gucci family from the assassination of I think it's Maurizio Gucci, and it's through the gaze, the eyes, the world of Patricia Reggiani, who is going to be played by
Lady Gaga.
And so this week it was announced that a whole bunch of, these are huge actors. We got Robert De Niro, Jared Leto, Al Pacino, Adam Driver, Jack Huston, and Reeve Carney, who might all play roles in this larger upper crust class. What are your hopes for this project? Do you care about all these supporting actors and this era or this storyline?
Yeah, it's a potentially fascinating story, and we both know Ridley Scott doesn't have to do much to get an A-list cast together. My only concern is that Ridley Scott is, I don't know, I can't remember the last film I truly loved by Ridley Scott. I think he had a fascinating story to tell in All the Money in the World, but that film was okay. It was fine. And so this feels like a in the vein of that film, sort of a high profile, murder in the world of wealthy people with an all-star cast, but we'll see what happens. This is still probably a way off. He still has to finish The Last Duel, which had to stop production because of COVID. So we'll see. We'll see. I think there's a lot of promise here, but how it turns out is anybody's guess for me.
Yeah. So essentially, Lady Gaga plays a a Black Widow scorned by not necessarily deceit, but um, a love triangle that didn't work out in her favor. She was part of a high society, but what's intriguing about the backstory is that Maurizio had developed a lot of not shady dealings, but there's question. The reason why um, Lady Gaga's character um, was only put on trial several years later. It was there was the investigation had to overturn a lot of stones and try to see you know the motives and like why would somebody um, take take a Maurizio's life. So all these actors that are being named, we don't know which parts, but we figure that this character, who more or less didn't really care about the Gucci brand in a way, or propelling that the fashion brand, um, it looks at potential a lot of not villainous characters, but a lot of people that had their own interests and would have potentially had some fisticuff type encounters with this Maurizio Gucci personality. So a lot of these characters might be part of like the mystery elements and uh, and and if the vantage point is like a whodunit, then it's not necessarily Lady Gaga's story, but yeah, I'll be curious to see how they position the story, and is it a story of their relationship and how it went sour, or is it a larger story about all the business relationships that were potentially problematic? So there's a lot to figure out here.
Oh, absolutely. I think well, there's a lot of thematic territory you can mine out of here.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the interesting thing is the screenwriter is fairly unknown. It's Italian screenwriter Roberto Bentivegna, if I'm saying that right. And so that's another element as well. You know, Ridley Scott tends to work with very established, big name screenwriters, and this time around it's someone new. So hopefully that'll be an element that will invigorate this story, hopefully with the depth and the layers that, as you mentioned, that could be here. So again, like I will wait to see the result, but I think there's potential here. Let's just hope Ridley Scott can draw it out.
I'm Eric Lavallée. I'm editor-in-chief and site owner for IONCINEMA.com, and this is
Kevin Jagernauth, contributing writer for the playlist.
And together we are IndieSponge.